What requirement must a person have to open an investment fund in the USA?
Okay. The first thing is you have to have an LC or a partnership, an LC. When this LC, if you have only US citizens, investors, they need to provide for a percentage of investment or percentage of participation according to the amount that is agreed and according to the amount that is invested. So that is the most basic thing for an LLC. Now, once you have the LLC, you have to create the operating agreement and the strategy to invest. What are you going to invest in? And all these documents, all these instructions need to be in agreement for every single, in this case, partner that you or the owner of the LLC or your investors. Once you have that clear, what you're going to invest in, you go and invest. Now, remember that whenever you are receiving money from third parties, the LLC needs to be accountable. If you invest in real estate, that's fine. You can handle it having the investment fund, and then you also need to open, in addition to the investment fund, where that is the one that receives the money, you will have to open a second company that is the one that is going to execute the purchase. So do not commingle, or do not put all of the assets. If you have a strategy, you investing in different assets, real estate, stock market, ongoing businesses. If you have that in mind, always consider that if you put all of the assets into one single entity, is going to increase your risk, and you will need to take insurance, more insurance, liability insurance. So always consider that. Ideally, what I've seen is assets are purchased and assets are placed in one particular LLC. As I said before, you buy an LLC and then you put the asset, you buy an asset and then you put that asset in the LLC. That will create a separation from the fund and all the companies that are going to invest and going to own the asset. But the owner of those companies is obviously the fund. So you have the company that is receiving the investment and you have the LLC that are holding the assets. Whenever this arrangement works, for example, for real estate, there are cases where there are a few owners and they decide not to separate the investment from the fund, and then the fund is the one that receives the money and also holds the properties. That's also fine, especially if there are two or three or four owners max. But then once you have that, or if you want to change you decide not to invest in real estate but in the stock market, whenever you are investing in the stock market, you must have two more companies. One LLC that will be the management investment. You have a fund, and the investment fund is the one receiving the money, but that is not going to be the one that is going to execute the investment. You need to open a second company that is the one that is going to give advice to the fund about what to invest. And the person who is the investment advisor need to be registered with the Security and Exchange Commission, because now you are going to the stock market, and anyone doing management and advising and buying stock for a group of people in the USA needs to have registration with the Security and Exchange Commission. That is the requirement. And the person who is doing the investment also needs to open its own LLC for liability protection. So you have one company that is the fund, you have another company that is the investment advisor, I'm sorry, the investment management, and then another company who is the investment advisor, and that investment advisor needs to be registered with the SEC. That's the structure that you need to have in place with the objective of limiting the liability. Because remember, if you receive money from a group of investors and they trust you for the investment, you go and invest. So you open an LLC for investment management. That investment management company also holds an investment advisor. That investment advisor also opens an LLC with the only objective of, if anything happens and the investment fails, his responsibility is limited to the limited liability company that he owns. That's the objective of opening several LLC that are going to comply with different functions, is not only the protection for the investor, because the investment advisor is going to be responsible before the Security and Exchange Commission, meaning that he has to be qualified and got the respective licenses, the appropriate licenses. But in addition to that, the investment manager, the investment management company, and the investment advisor, they also need to be protected in case that the investments that are in the stock market, or the amount what the fund invests in the stock market, and it goes sour, they will be protected, because it will not be their responsibility, because the market fluctuates up and down, and that is not something that the investment advisor or the investment manager will be able to control. So that's critical. Make sure you have that. You have foreign investors, you have to have an investment fund in Cayman Islands, and then in addition to the one here in the US, and then the Cayman Islands needs to do the one that to execute the investment. Usually that company in the USA is going to be something that, that company in that fund for foreign investor in Cayman Islands is going to be something that's called an exempt company, meaning that it's not taxable in Cayman Islands either, because it will be formed only for people who are not Cayman Island citizens, nor US citizens. So therefore they will not be taxable here or there, but they need to be in this exempt company in Cayman Island. So we have, that's one. And then second, if you plan to invest, even though you have foreign investor, make sure you have an investment management company that is the one doing all the strategy and executing the strategy from the fund. And then within that company, or with the company, you have an investment manager, but this investment manager also needs to be an LLC for limited liability protection.